Hey, what's up? This is Sam from Tyke Schooling, and I'm the skeleton in front of you. Hey, 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 hey. Alright, I'm just kidding. Alright, today we are talking about the laryngeal muscles. Very easy, very understandable. After watching this lecture, if you don't understand larynx, I'll pay you $10. Just kidding, I won't pay you anything. But trust me, I will try to make this lecture as easy as possible. So we're talking about the laryngeal muscle. We know hope you heard the two other lectures on cartilages and introduction of the larynx. After that, you can watch the third lecture. This is about the laryngeal muscle, which is an organ located in the anterior neck. It is component of the respiratory tract and has several important functions, which include your phonation, cough reflex, and protection of the lower respiratory tract. So in case of muscles of the larynx, we can divide them into two groups: the external muscle and the internal muscle. The external muscle act to elevate and depress your larynx during swallowing. In contrast, the internal muscle act to move the individual components of the larynx, playing a vital role in breathing and phonation. First, we'll be talking about the extrinsic muscles, because we have divided them into two groups. Extrinsic muscles are located outside and intrinsic muscle are located inside. But the picture you're watching, or the 3D model you're watching, I only showed in this the extrinsic muscle. First we'll discuss the extrinsic muscle. After that we'll move inside and I will show you the intrinsic muscle. So remember the extrinsic muscle. If you want to remember them, they are very easy to remember. The extrinsic muscles act to move the larynx superiorly and inferiorly. They are comprised of the suprahyoid and infrahyoid groups of muscle. If you remember them, I'm going to show you them. Also, I'm going to again show you these muscles in this diagram. But if you remember them, this would be very easy. Suprahyoid and infrahyoid muscles are and another muscle, which is a muscle of pharynx, that is stylopharyngeus, also is the component of the extrinsic muscle of your what I call the larynx. So first talk about the suprahyoid muscle, which are important. So suprahyoid muscles are those muscles which are superior to your hyoid bone. So this is your hyoid bone. So the very easy formula to remember the suprahyoid muscle, there are four in group. So remember, there are four suprahyoid muscles and four infrahyoid muscle. These four suprahyoid muscle, you can remember them by a formula that is DSMG. So DSMG, which stands for the digastric, this is the big structure digastric, and this is the posterior belly of digastric, and this guy comes around and makes up the anterior belly of your digastric. The second, this is D, then we got S. So S stands for stylohyoid. That probably means which is coming from the styloid process up to the hyoid bone. So this is your stylohyoid muscle. After that, we have got M, which stands for mylohyoid. So this is your mylohyoid muscle. And after that, the superior, we have got the G, which is geniohyoid. So if you look inside from the posterior view, this is your G muscle, which is your geniohyoid muscle. This is the right geniohyoid muscle. So these are the muscle of suprahyoid. Now let's talk about the infrahyoid muscle, which are located inferior to your hyoid bone. So those again include the four in groups. The first would be very easy to remember. You can tell them by looking at the picture. So this is your coming from hyoid bone to the sternum. So this is sternohyoid, from sternum to the hyoid, and again from the thyroid to the hyoid, from the sternum to the thyroid. This is the sternothyroid. So sternohyoid, sternothyroid, and from the sides you can see this small muscle coming from the hyoid to thyroid. So these are thyroarytenoid muscle. And last muscle is this big muscle, which is the omohyoid muscle. So these are four muscles which are below the hyoid bone, which we call the infrahyoid muscle group, and above we call the suprahyoid group muscle. So both of these groups together with another muscle, which is a muscle of pharynx, that is stylopharyngeus muscle, together all of them form the extrinsic muscle. If somebody is asking you how many muscles are there, you will be answering that total of 9 types of muscles, because most of all of the muscles have two, they are in pair, so you say 9 and total of 18 muscles. So remember, the supra and infrahyoid muscles group attached to the hyoid bone. This in turn is bound to the larynx by strong ligaments, allowing the whole of the larynx to be moved as one unit. So as a general rule, you must remember the suprahyoid muscle are located superior to the hyoid bone, and the stylopharynges, they elevate the larynx because they are located superiorly. So if you pull them upward, they are going to elevate the muscle, while the infrahyoid muscle, they actually usually depress your larynx. That was very easy to talk about the intrinsic muscle. Now let's move towards and let's talk about the intrinsic muscle of the larynx. So first I have to kind of remove the muscular structure. All right, we are done with the muscles, and let me put the intrinsic muscle of your larynx. So this is it. Very simple. We have kept the intrinsic muscles of your larynx. So you can see this is the larynx and there are muscles inside it kind of surrounding it. It's very easy. So the intrinsic laryngeal muscle acts on the individual components of the larynx. They control the shape of the rima glottis, which you have seen in earlier picture, which is the opening between your vocal folds and the arytenoid cartilage, and the length and tension of the folds. So remember, all the intrinsic muscle of the larynx except the cricothyroid we will be talking about the cricothyroid in just a bit, are innervated by inferior laryngeal nerve, the terminal branch of the recurrent laryngeal nerve, itself a branch of the vagus nerve. So the cricothyroid, which was not innervated by the inferior laryngeal nerve, is innervated only by the external branch of the superior laryngeal nerve, again, which is derived from the vagus nerve. So vagus nerve is kind of the main supplier of your supply to the intrinsic muscle. First, we'll be talking about the cricothyroid muscle. So cricothyroid muscle. So if let me first remove the whole larynx, so I can show you the muscle. So these are all the muscles, right? So cricothyroid muscles, we are going to talk about them. Let me talk straight about the cricothyroid. This is the lateral one, this is the posterior one, and this is the transverse. Wait a minute. This is it. Wait a minute. This is push. So cricothyroid muscle stretches and tenses your vocal ligaments. So and so it's important for the creation of forceful speech. It also has a role in altering your what I call the tone of voice, along with the Thyroarytenoid muscle, hence its colloquial name, the singer's muscle. So remember, anybody is asking you what is the singer's muscle, or when you are speaking forcefully which muscle is involved, you are going to say it's the cricothyroid muscle. So which is your cricothyroid muscle? So this big structure is your cricothyroid muscle. Together you can call them the cricothyroid muscle. If you talk about the this is a straight part of the cricothyroid muscle, and this is the oblique part of the cricothyroid muscle. Together you can call them cricothyroid muscle. They are attachments. If I add up the larynx, let me add up the larynx so we can make it clear. You can see them now. This is your cricothyroid muscle right down there on the sides. These both are involved. So originate from the anterior-lateral. This is anterior and lateral aspect of your cricoid cartilage, and coming from cricoid cartilage and attaching themselves to the inferior margin of and inferior horn of your thyroid cartilage. Very simple. Cricothyroid coming from cricoid cartilage and attaching to the thyroid cartilage. Their action is to stretch and tense the vocal ligaments. They are innervated, we just talked about that, external laryngeal nerve, which is a branch of superior laryngeal nerve. Now let's talk about the thyroarytenoid ligament. That is the thyroarytenoid. Talk about the thyroarytenoid muscle. So the thyroarytenoid muscle, you can see that muscle just I have to remove the larynx in order to show you the thyroarytenoid muscle. So this is your thyroarytenoid muscle. You can see it down here. It acts to relax the vocal ligaments, allowing for a softer voice. So it attaches from the inferior posterior aspect of the angle of the thyroid cartilage and attached to the anterior lateral part of the arytenoid cartilage. Action is simply that relaxes the vocal cord. Its innervation is inferior laryngeal nerve. Very simple. Now let's talk about the posterior cricoarytenoid muscle. So it's posterior crico okay, it was like, so this is posterior cricoarytenoid cartilage. So are the sole abductors of the vocal cord. This is usually asked in your VAVA exams, which is the abductors of vocal cords, and these are the only solo abductors of the vocal cords, and that's only muscle capable of widening the rima glottis. Their attachment origin from the posterior surface of your what I call the cricoid cartilage. First, let me add up the cricoid cartilage. So you can see posterior to the cricoid. Let me remove the other structure so you can view it very easily and have a good view of it. So I had it. So you can see it now. From the posterior surface, they originate from the posterior aspect of the cricoid cartilage and attach to the muscular process of what I call the arytenoid cartilage. The action is abducts vocal cord and innervation, simple for all, that is inferior laryngeal nerve. Now let's talk about the lateral crico. Let me remove the respiratory again. Now talk about the lateral cricoarytenoid. Okay, we got it. All right, first simply I'm just out of the diagram. So the lateral cricoarytenoid cartilage muscle are the major adductors of your vocal cord. This narrows the rima glottis, modulating the tone and volume of speech. Right, so if I show you in this diagram, you can see it from just inside. This is your vocalis muscle, and right. So the lateral cricoarytenoid muscles are the major vectors of the vocal folds. This narrows rima glottis, modulating your volume in speech. Their attachment from the arc of the cricoid cartilage and attaches to the muscular process of the cartilage. Again, same. Its action is adduction of the vocal folds, and innervation is simply same as in an inferior laryngeal nerve. Now talk about the transverse and oblique. What an oblique arytenoid. So you can see it from posterior side. This is this is the oblique part of your arytenoid, and this is oblique part of arytenoid, and this is your transverse part of the arytenoid. You can view it posteriorly. So the transverse and oblique part of your arytenoid muscle adducts the arytenoid cartilage, closing the posterior portion of the rima glottis. That was the opening of vocal cords, and this narrows the laryngeal inlet. Its attachment spans from one arytenoid cartilage to the opposite arytenoid. Very simple. Action, again, adduction of the arytenoid cartilage. Innervation is simply as the inferior laryngeal nerve, which was the branch of a recurrent laryngeal nerve. So this is it regarding the muscles of your diddy all F larynx. Or if you think you need any other lecture on any other topic, please make sure to leave us a comment, and keep visiting Tiger Schooling, and keep visiting the website, that is www.tigerschooling.com, and see you soon. Keep visiting. Bye bye.